Well, we might as well call this part two at this point over here. It is 5:16 in the morning. It is still July 3rd, 2020. It is Friday. Thursday. Friday. Party day. Businesses are still shut down, so is the government at this point because of the COVID-19. Hell, you know who the hell I am. Sometimes I don't know who the hell I am. I have to look at an ID card. But what I was talking about earlier in the last video was about America. How we look at ourselves, how we view ourselves. Something similar to MAGA at this point over here. We have to make America great, but we don't know what the hell that is anymore. People want the one version at this point over here because I think it's a lot easier to look at. But boys and girls, look at a damn pyramid in the back of the card. Actually, behind a $1 bill. Go ahead, take a look at it. You still got a dollar bill with you. Flip it over, look at the back, not where their face is at, but where the rest of the diagrams are at, with all the intricate details. And you look at the pyramid with the eye above it. The pyramid is our country. The pyramid is our country. Keep that in mind. I'm trying to explain to people that America is not meant to be complete. America is not meant to be ruled by one force and that's it. We're supposed to be a collection of many voices in a democracy that even allows the minority to have their say and be able to work with the majority in order to have a working government of sorts. We have our viewpoints of what this country is supposed to be meaning to everybody. July 4th is supposed to be a celebration of our independent values, our independent systems, our independent way of thinking at this point over here. But actually, we're still slaves. I hate to say it, but we still are. At least I'm sitting on my stomach. Because talking about things like this upsets me a little bit because people keep forgetting and keep going into combat situations. They still think that we should be one party. I still think like Lord of the Rings scenario here. One ring that rules them all. No. America is not supposed to be that way. I pray to God America never be that way, because if it is, we're still going to have a revolution one way or another. And we will have a revolution that way. Of ideas, of forms, of format. We have to have that kind of level of thinking. We must have that level of thinking. Otherwise, we're not living up to our potential. This country was meant for something else, something greater. But we're making this damn thing into a damn tragedy left and right. I know the COVID-19 hasn't been easy on everybody. It's not supposed to be. It's a pandemic. It's testing everybody left and right around here. Don't call it biblical. To me, it's just a biological nightmare we're still dealing with. It's not the apocalypse. I don't believe it's the apocalypse. But I do believe it's a test for everybody, one way or another. But I'm not about to skull thump on people on what it's supposed to mean, because to me it's still a big nasty bug we still got to get rid of. Pain in the frickin' ass. I hate this damn thing with a passion. But I'm also trying to think of either it's bringing us closer or it's tearing our country apart left and right, and how we're dealing with this and how we're viewing this. And how other viewpoints we're not looking at. This could be something that we should be looking at, but we're not. We're looking at a big nasty bug to get rid of. We should be using this thing as a metaphor as well. A metaphor on how we're supposed to be dealing with each other and how we're dealing with life at this point. Because if we're not, then we're really screwed, aren't we? I was talking about our past, and I was talking about our future. I was trying to talk about America and its values and how we looked at it back then and how we're looking at it right now. And probably a lot of people look at it and say, what the hell is he talking about? Well, it's the same damn attitude you have when you go into a classroom and you're listening to a professor trying to make you understand what history is all about, what the country of America is, with a capital A, by the way, not America. It's America, because that's how it is. That's how it's spelled. That's how it was created. We have ethics. We have values. We have our own viewpoints, our own context of how things are supposed to be. But we really haven't quite learned enough. And we never will. Because there is still so much to learn. We could try understanding the facts and figures about how the colonies were used. We can also try to understand the other viewpoints of the Native Americans who actually lived here and what they think about our country, or to think about ourselves right now as it is. And there's a lot of dissenting viewpoints. But that's good. That's good. Because now we're understanding. We're understanding how the country got started. And once we understand what happened, we also look at the steps we've taken to this point. And using those steps, we got to chart a way on how to get to a future we can survive in. Not the better utopia that everyone else keeps hoping for at this point over here. But one we can actually continue on as a nation and grow as a nation. We're never going to get to utopia. There is no such thing as utopia. At least not on our mortal plane of existence. Utopia is stagnant. Utopia is seeing the pyramid solidified. And then that's it. One person's viewpoint of utopia. And we have to live under that. People are going to say this is sacrilegious of what I'm saying. They're going to use religion to say, how dare you, because God has plans. Well, God has plans, yes. And if he did, how come our country is still the way it is right now? How come it was formed the way it was? With many viewpoints, with many dissenting thoughts and ideas and conflicts going on. How come we're still struggling and trying to continue a country that goes on? We've been using the concept of God like crazy. We've been using it as a crutch, as an excuse at this point over here. God's a motivating factor of getting us going, but we need the moral compass. But as for getting a country solidified, it's a different story altogether. And here's another question concerning about if we're going to be opening up that Pandora's box. Regarding religion, whoever said that there was only one religion formed that guides our country? Whoever said it was just one religion? Why did God have more than one religion? Why did he have more than one viewpoint to look at him? We all get locked. We're all locked in our damn narrow view. We're not looking at the scope. We're not used to looking at the scope. We're also looking at the damn new viewpoint over here that we're missing everything around us. When I think of the concept of God, he is everything. He is everywhere. The energy, the consciousness, the ability to create, it's beyond human recognition. And we define him by our narrow viewpoints and how we look at it, because we don't know how to understand him. So to be locked in just one little single voice and viewpoint and say this is the only way, I don't buy it, neither does the rest of the country. Because we all had our own individual viewpoints on how to understand this. And with those individual viewpoints is how we're forming our country at this point. Because every individual viewpoint becomes, well, what Reagan tried to do, it is 1,000 points of light, or was that Bush? Bush Sr. got it the soul. Trying to tell us that there's 1,000 points of light. One of those two presidents had the vision of 1,000 points of light. And at the time, everyone was shaking their heads and saying, yeah, that sounds good. They didn't understand a damn word. They had no concept of what the hell it meant. Understand the great stew, or the great soup. Your favorite soup. Maybe it's beef, maybe it's chicken, maybe it's a meat stew, but filled with vegetables and broth and starches and flavor. Every other ingredient that you liked in this one big pot. And it tastes unique because each bite is unique. But the whole thing is delicious. That's our country. We have different textures, we have different tastes, we have different structures, we have different ways of thinking, but we come together and the pot is delicious. However, in recent years, people keep thinking that stew is not stew at all. It has to be one thing and one thing only. Whatever the hell it is. It has to be one flavor before it can become a stew. Then it no longer becomes a great American pie, it just becomes one flavor, and that's supposed to be America? That's supposed to be America? The one ring rules them all concept? The one ingredient is supposed to bind everything else together? No, it doesn't work that way because we've been skull thumping each other for God knows how many millenniums trying to think of that way and trying to feel that way. You don't believe in my religion, I'm going to skull thump your ass. You're not going to believe in my political party over here, I'm going to skull thump your ass. How about if I just skull thump your ass just for general purposes over here because it's fun. Maybe eventually you'll be in a pulp at this point to understand what our country is supposed to be, or what my viewpoint is supposed to be. Mine, not yours. I'm going to make sure I'm going to force my values down people's throats, because that's America. They have failed to understand what history is all about. And yes, I am being a little disgusting with my armpits. They are itching like crazy. If I had some anti-itch cream, I probably will have to use that stuff on it. Ointments to help out situations. I'm not about to use ointments as an example over here, but I can. And yes, I'm drinking while I'm doing this because other people do it. Actually, I don't think they even do that on the air, but you know what, I don't care. This is me. I am one of many. I am one of those many ingredients that people don't like. I speak my mind, I speak it plain enough, I speak it clear enough. I piss people off because I am what they consider a libtard or a libturd, depending on your viewpoint. Being a staunch liberal, they would think I am. I try to be open-minded and broad-minded on certain situations, but when I hear something is not jiving and it's not truthful, I will say. And that's what causes the conflict, because one person's viewpoint of what truth is another person's fiction writing, because it hasn't happened that way. But to some people, it already has happened that way, so they will continue to fiction. We haven't understood what makes our country great. There is no way of understanding that concept. What is America to you? What is America to you? What does it mean for you? Specifically, generationally, family-wise. What is America for you? What is your viewpoint? And once you've got that in your head, how can you make that blend in to make the stew? Unless, of course, you're looking at a one-course starchy meal. It just has one flavor in it. Just one lump. The pyramid is complete. Sauron lives. One ring rules them all. America is not meant to be completed. America is a country supposed to be full of opportunities, of expanding boundaries and frontiers that we have yet to explore in ourselves and each other. The physical, we can't even expand any further. We're sandwiched between coasts and we're sandwiched between other countries. The frontier and boundaries are here. Here. And what we can do together. We may have different viewpoints, different ideas. If we can somehow come to a common ground and pick and choose what we think we can identify with. Maybe we've got common enough ground to get something started. The country is not meant to be completed. The pyramid is not meant to be completed. Because if it is completed, then we've got one version, one vision, one person. We're not supposed to have that. Our system of government is elected people. We have a House of Representatives. We have a Senate. The ones that make the laws. And the ones that control the purse. And both chambers try to balance each other out, and they will never. Because, as someone actually put it a long time ago, cup and saucer. You have a hot cup of tea, but you need to have it cooled enough to drink it. You put it on a flat saucer. The saucer is supposed to help cool the tea a little bit so it can be drunk. Therefore, you can get your laws passed that way. The Senate takes its own sweet time, and the heat of the battle is in the House of Representatives. We also have the executive branch. The executive branch is the ones who are supposed to be executing the laws. Sometimes interpreting them to a point, but not fully. That's where the Supreme Court comes in. Whether or not the laws are for the letter or for the meaning of our laws that are originally set up in our country, the U.S. Constitution, and all the other amendments in it. Is it by the Constitution, or is it by someone else's design? They have to make choices like that. These classes are supposed to be constantly studied in our schools and our colleges. These are the places to have also debates. We can have those debates. We can bring those debates out and have them in the open if we need to. We have the freedom, we have the right. We have that ability, we have that freedom to do so. The masks, people say, are against God. They are against man. They are against the law. And people keep forgetting that sometimes we have to, in order to save the country, we have to forestall a few freedoms here necessary to save us all. But it is a balancing point. It's a tightrope. We understand, because of the pandemic going on, that we have to take certain actions, that our liberties are going to be curtailed, and we are afraid, and rightfully so, that we want our liberties to remain the same. But we have to realize the world's changing. The world is mutating. We have a virus that needs to be fought. And yes, some people thought herd mentality is going to protect us. We have this all-important immune system. Well, I hate to say it, but even with the best immune system, you're still knocked down on your ass. Some people can't even get back up on their ass. They're still stuck with a tube down their throat, breathing for them for a long while. Until it gets to the point where they can't even breathe for themselves. And they have to have a hell of a lot of help if they live and survive the bug. Even with those have the best immune systems are getting knocked down by this damn bug. It is something we haven't dealt with. It is something we will probably deal with in the future, but this time forewarned, forearmed, and maybe with an advantage, an immunity. But herd immunity is not going to help at this point over here unless we get people to study. And in the meantime, we're killing people left and right because of it. I call it natural selection. I call it stupidity. I call it stupidity. Maybe nature's doing this to us. Maybe God's doing this to us. I don't know. I'm not calling it the apocalypse just yet. As for celebrating the idealism of the holiday, we can. We can celebrate our past. We can celebrate what it means to be Americans. But right now, we have to sacrifice our freedoms a little bit for the discomfort of a mask, for social distancing, in order to preserve our union. We had to war with each other. We had to inflict bodily harm to each other. We had to use bayonets to go right into your gut, twist it up. We had to have cannonballs blowing off limbs left and right. We had to have our values tested beyond what we've had in the Civil War, 1860 through 1864. We had a lot of our values tested and reforged. And a lot of lives had to be lost during that time. A lot of lives. A lot of major inconveniences. A lot of lands burned down. The whole war raged in several states. It also raged in our homes, our own values. The physical manifestations were bad, but just the conversations were almost just as brutal. With the COVID-19 going on right now, we are in a war of survival for the country. And what sucks at this point is the balance lines we have to walk between our civil rights and survival. Are we Americans able to do this? Can we do this in our generation? Are we willing to do the tightrope right now, going on this? Are we able? Are we willing? The sun is coming up fast for July 3rd. And then it'll be day, and then the sunset, then at night, and then it'll be July 4th. What is America meaning for you? What is your definition? Think about it.